Welcome to Property with Jacob. Today, the budget 2021. So this video has been in the pipeworks for a while. I've struggled to get it out. There's a lot of information to go through. So topics we'll be covering are growth, the furlough scheme, business support, housing, and somewhat spending, somewhat borrowing, as they will generally affect business and house prices. So initially, let's start with growth. So the Chancellor said that over the next year, tax year, we're going to get 7.3% growth. What do I think about this and how will this affect property? Well, if this is true, then I believe this is great. 7.3% growth is fantastic. However, is it achievable? Due to the government stimulus, which we're going to talk about later on, yes, I probably do think that's fairly accurate. I'm not one to predict the future, and I feel like somewhat I'm going off the back of what the analysts have said. Sometimes they're wrong, quite a lot of times actually they're wrong. However, I'm not one to speculate about this, so that one's a bit up in the air, but it's an interesting figure that it's come from Rishi. Due to the contraction of 9.9% of the economy in 2020, that is quite a big fall. Yeah, we've gone through a global pandemic, so I feel like that's totally justified within that. I'm glad that property hasn't seen the same sort of retraction that the rest of the overall economy did. That's great. It was the biggest fall since 1709. Glad no one's allowed to see that. The furlough scheme, this is good. So the furlough scheme introducing 80% of someone's wage, as you all know. This has been, I think people have been somewhat polarised by this scheme. So on one end, we have people that have profited quite a lot from this scheme. They've been able to not been travelling to work. They've not been having most of their normal expenses, or not been spending money on their non-normal expenses, and it's saved them a lot of money. So that 80% actually, even though they've lost 20% of the wage, it's actually benefited them because they've just saved it all. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we've had the people that have lost 20% of their wage. So people where their bills are 80% of their wage and that is it. And then they've got 20%, that normal 20% will be their, I don't know, leisure funds, let's say. It's going to hit them people particularly hard, especially other people with businesses. The contraction on that, not people with businesses, people that might work in other areas and have side businesses. Their side businesses have been hit and been subsidising their main income, and then it's kind of hit them, as in their income's been reduced 80% for their main job, and then they've also lost a lot of business on the side as well, meaning that their overall pot of money has been significantly shrunk. Overall, meaning that they've got a lot less funds to play with. It's made life harder for them, made the bills harder to pay, and it's just generally put a squeeze on them. So I do empathise with people that are in them positions. It's not nice. It's not good at all. Anyway, from that sombre note, we have to talk about some government stimulus, as mentioned before. We've got some business support on the way. The Chancellor confirms a £5 billion restart grant for businesses to help companies grow after lockdown. Now, this is good. This is really good. I read somewhere that £450 billion has been pumped into the economy due to the coronavirus pandemic. Now, for the 2008 financial crisis, £45 billion was pumped into the economy. So to say it's an uptake of 10%, 10 times, the amount of the 2008 crisis, and think about the growth that happened after the worst financial crisis in living memory. Think about how much growth came about that in terms of property. You know, we're talking, I don't know, I can't remember the figures, but 3 to 8% growth nationally. So that was fantastic. I think how much growth is going to come out of this £450 billion worth of money just come in the air. So it's either going to go to individual, it's either going to go to deflating the value of the currency, which we've seen has not really happened that much, but bearing in mind we need to give it time, or we're going to have a trickle-down effect where people tend to gravitate towards assets. So the money ends up going into assets and inflating asset prices, which is, as property investors, if you own the property, and that's great. You want to do that. You want your asset value to grow. However, as a buyer, you don't really want that to happen because it makes your purchasing more expensive. There's been a 5% reduction to VAT. So buying building materials in the short term before you're giving your tax rebate, then this has been extended to September 2020. So this is good news for business owners. Generally, just a lot of house cuts, a lot of tax cuts. Sorry. Next, we're going to discuss housing. The biggest one in housing, stamp duty holiday. I mentioned this in my previous video, but the stamp duty holiday up to properties valued at £500,000 will be extended to the end of June, which is fantastic news. I'm not sure if I'm going to squeeze in my house sale before then, before then, but hey-oh, we'll see. Another key bit is the Chancellor has confirmed a mortgage guarantee for the Help to Buy first-time buyers of 95% mortgages, which is really good news for first-time buyers. So you can essentially buy £100,000 house with only £100,000 house with only £5,000, which is great. Pair this with a lifetime ISA, then you will only need £4,000, as mentioned in the previous video. It's great news. It's wonderful. Again, this is something for you to live in, like for residential. It's not for buy-to-let. Apologies. I think I was incorrect regarding that 450 billion. It states that 352 billion pounds is the COVID care package. Let's say financial pack. So 352 billion. Yeah, only 100 billion off. Talking in these scales, like, yes, it is a lot of money, but still vastly more than what happened at the end of 2008. I feel like that, like I've said in previous videos, we don't want to repeat the mistakes of people in the past, and I feel like we're doing exactly that. It's justified. We couldn't have seen a pandemic coming from anywhere, but I feel like that when they start seeing that growth and we're out of the pit of doom, let's say, regarding COVID, we really need to start reining in as a country. Otherwise, we're heading towards another big crash. But, you know, if you position yourself well as a property investor, you can benefit from the crash every time. You know, buying property prices from... There's going to be a lot more distressed buyers. Hey, I might be one, don't know. But there's going to be a lot more distressed properties on the market. So if you've got the cash to go out and buy more, then you're going to be getting houses at a massive discount. Depending on your area, you could see houses 25% discount, 30% discount on the house price. It could be great. Just depends on how you position yourself. Spending. So our budget deficit is £355 billion this year. So it's 17% of our GDP. And this is the highest of any sort of peacetime. But then again, we're going through a global pandemic. Obviously, peacetime assumes we're not at war with anyone. But as the media portrays, we are at war with COVID. This is quite an interesting one. Again, my previous point stands as we really need to rein ourselves in as a country to not experience another big crash. But are we going to do that? Definitely not. We never do. There's quite a lot of parts about national debt. Now, in terms of, this has been quite a quick fire topic. There's a lot of other points regarding alcohol duties that are frozen, fuel duties that are frozen. Woo! Yes, drinking alone at home. No, definitely don't do that. It's bad for you. But yeah, there's been a lot of other things mentioned. Is it particularly related to property? It's not really that worth mentioning. Corporation tax is something that is related to property. It's probably the final thing I'll mention here. So corporation tax will increase 25% for companies that have profits over £250,000. if you are a company that nets a profit of less than £50,000, then it'll stay at 19%. So most property investors, you should be okay. In fact, quite a lot of companies will probably end up doing some clever accounting, totally legal, but somewhat dodgy. Well, not dodgy, but it's clever accounting. Let's stick with that term, to stay under that £50,000 threshold. It's a lot easier to do the juggling within accountancy rather than it would be to do with your own income tax statements. So that is something to consider, especially when you're running your property business through a limited company, to make sure you keep your profits under 50k, to stick to that 19%. 19% tax margin. Lost my words then. And there's a lot of information to digest here. That's why the video has been a bit delayed in terms of coming out. Overall, what do I think about it in terms of for property investors? Yeah, it's good. I feel like landlords and property investors have been punished quite a lot. To say we've had a Tory government, they've been hit quite a lot financially and legislative-wise with previous government legislation. It has hit them quite hard. What do I think about this means going forward? It's probably one of the best budgets we've had in a long time, to be honest. Does it make me feel particularly great? Well, it's not really undone some of the things it's done some of the things the previous budgets have done to private landlords. I feel like somewhat they're painted as the enemy in the eyes of the public. However, there's a housing crisis. We live in a capitalist world. Free market economy prevails. Why would you hinder the free market? So it kind of goes against, core capitalist values. I'm not talking about, proper extreme capitalism. I'm talking about some form of like social capitalism where you think about the benefit of the overall collective group of people and then you apply free market ideology to that. That's society that we live in today, thankfully. So over the weekend, I'm going to post a video on pensions in the other series, so that's going to be quite interesting. It's something related to how you can become a millionaire by the time you can retire, and that's not just some catchy title. Like, I could prove it with maths. So yeah, thank you for watching this episode, and I'll see you in the next one. So thank you for watching. If you like this video, then please like it. We've got a lot more videos in the pipeline, so if you like what you see, subscribe to us for weekly videos. I'll see you in the next one.